go, maybe next week. You know, and it may take them till grade 11 to show up. Or they may wait until their friend wants to go, right? And then they go. But, and I think also in the workshop yesterday, the kids, they introduced their Gay Straight Alliance, and it was so awesome. They went up and they, my name is, and they said all their names, and they just said, you know, we'd love it if you wanted to come out and join us. You don't have to say how you identify. It's open to all sexual orientations. Really, we just want to have events, and we want to have, like, support, you know, diversity and inclusion in our school. And so just putting that out there to that invitation to of that it's open to everyone, and you don't have to come in and spill, or you don't have to know even. You know, that's a big part of it.
And I was just going to go back to
that's okay. No.
Sorry, I was going to go back to what you were asking about getting into the schools, and I found you know, if you go in with some of the posters and some of the pamphlets, and I mean, if there's other stuff around, you know, like the youth line, if you've got youth line information, because I'm up in a rural area. I mean, we don't have youth groups, so I take out the youth line little things. But if you have to go to a staff, you know, can you have 5 to 10 minutes at a staff meeting? Then you're putting the word out to the teachers, and they're the ones that the kids are in contact with on a daily basis, and they're the ones that are saying, you know, kids are starting to talk about, you know, and I'm not quite sure how to deal with it and that sort of thing. So I found that's a good place to start.
It's one of my goals right now is as much teacher training as I can get, because to be honest, that's where kids are coming out more than
teachers,
and more than at home maybe, because it's slightly less to lose. You know what I mean?
Kids too, you know, you don't have to.
And they spend most of their time at school.
Exactly.
So
and the bullying was a common thread through most of our stories, and kids work, you know, falling off their schoolwork, falling off, and bright kids. And if we could stop the bullying, that's our goal, I think, in a way, to make it a safe place.
But that's the whole change in the wallpaper. You know, it begins small, and maybe not a lot of people go, and perhaps you won't see the odd brave grade 9 in the room, but sometimes that doesn't happen, or lots of times it is the grade 9s who are the impetus to get it going. But you're gardening, you're building a garden, and it takes a long time to build that beautiful perennial garden. It takes years, and that's what it's going to take with the GSAs. You get in there, they're providing the education, they're starting to change the language, they're changing the wallpaper in their school, and hopefully we will all be out of a job in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, well, that's what I say. I said, you know, I'm hoping to work myself out of a job here, and I've been doing, this year my focus has really been GSAs and getting into the schools, and it's working, you know. I just 2 weeks ago did workshops for all the grade 9s. So I did 5 separate workshops because I wanted to keep the numbers small. 5 separate workshops for grade 9s in Lakefield. Now they're asking me to come back and do the grade 8s. Right? Give me the grade 8s. Because I remember grade 8 being horrible. I hated grade 8. Grade 9 I was whatever. But grade 8, you know, because that's where a lot of this stuff's coming up. But also there had been some conflict. One of the kids, it's really interesting how this happened. So I was just about to leave, and one of the kids came up, and you know how they all come up together, right? Like a pack. And the girl came up, and she's like, I'm just kind of troubled, and she wanted to know, because at home, you know, her dad had made some comment about why people choose to be that way. And so in the workshop, I talked about it not being a choice. So she's like, you know, it's kind of like tick, 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 tick for her. But also she said, you know, last year in grade 8, when we did health ed, like they said that, you know, because they separate the girls and girls, they said being with another woman is it's not, like, I can't remember her wording, but basically she was saying it was normal, it was wrong. I was like, oh really? And I actually had the child and youth worker with me, so we both kind of gave each other a look, like, okay. And I just explained to her, well, you know, that teacher may have those feelings, but actually she wasn't entitled to tell you those feelings. And they're wrong. P.S. They're wrong. So she was just like, oh, okay. Because she knew some kids in grade 8 who had the same message this year. And those kids were upset about it and said something. But nothing really happened, right? So then, I don't know what will happen, but the child youth worker and I had a conversation. She went to the principal, and now I'm being called in to do kind of a remedial what I'm calling
Retraining,
remedial work.
retraining the grade eights.
Retraining of those grade eights. So that's kind of how that happened, but those kids said something and nothing was done. They said something to me and to the child youth worker who then went and talked, and now something's being
So
done.
the point is go to the top.
Yeah.
Or go to someone who's gonna,
Yeah.
Go to someone that's willing to go to the top and defend you.
Yeah.
Because you would have merit when you go to the teacher, because you're not one of the students in the class that in the school that they can just ignore, whether it be a principal or otherwise.
or question the motivation.
Yeah.
Right?
Whereas you are coming in and saying, okay, this is what happened, and basically you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
The other thing is, guess what? They're wrong.
Yeah.
Prove it to you sometime.
I just had an idea when we were talking about all these things. I think one of the issues for youth, my daughter's 20, and is they don't have the tools either. They don't know how to combat this. And I had an idea that if you could sort of identify someone in your area, a youth who's ready to do it, send them to something like Project Acorn. I don't know if you've heard of Project Acorn. My daughter was on the committee, so send them to that type of a thing, fund it. In fact, it's a sliding scale. You can go there for $20. It's almost completely funded. Or you can donate or whatever. Send someone from the community or from the school that you can find or identify as being someone who could be a leader. They go to these groups for 4 days and come back with so many tools and a network of other people on Facebook that they can ask for help from. We need to get that leadership teaching down into their area, and some of them are ready for it. You just have to give them the tools to go.
And there was another one in Guelph, and the name has escaped me, but it was like a kind of intensive 1 week, leadership training
Exactly.
specifically around GLBT.
You can't
So
send
how to do that
everybody,
here.
but if you can find those youth that are ready to sort of do something, and then they can bring it back, and they develop their network and their allies. And you're right, they listen to each other much more than they listen to.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been part of something
Is there,
that.
is there a place to get information on that?
Absolutely, 10oaksproject.com.